Welcome to a special edition episode of the Silver and BlackCast podcast. If you're tuning in right now, it's because you probably have heard that it's been a hell of a day at sea in Raider Nation. A lot of information has been going on, and we're going to discuss it all right now. What does it mean? What's going on for the future? What do these moves, how are they going to impact our Raiders? So let's start off. We'll start off with our guy, Jakobi Meyers. And Jakobi Meyers immediately has asked for a trade from the Raiders. Thoughts on this, Rocco?
I'm just now piecing together my thoughts. I'm trying to play catch up here. I don't know. We're gonna have to play it by ear and see how this plays out. This could be a thing where, maybe, he's unhappy, asked for a trade, but, he doesn't have a lot of leverage and we have no intention to trade him. And, he plays this year in the silver and black as we always thought he would. And then next offseason, we'll see what happens then. Maybe this brings the Raiders to the table with a little more of an aggressive offer, and they could work something out. That I guess that would be best case scenario. Or maybe a team makes an offer that we like, and maybe he does get traded. I'm just wrapping my head around it myself now, and it's we're gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's a seems like all options could be on the table right now for Jakobi Meyers. I think the most likely option is that he plays out the year with the Raiders. I don't think that they really want to trade him. I don't think that they want to lose him. I think that they do value him and do realize that he's a really good player. However, just like everything else, it's a business, and money talks. And Jakobi Meyers right now is the 31st highest paid wide receiver annually in the NFL. He's behind guys like Darius Slayton, Rashad Bateman, Khalil Shakur, and in my opinion, he's much higher regarded than those guys. And so, if I'm Jakobi's agent, I'm like, hey, I need to get this guy paid. I mean, this guy should be making more money. Like Courtland Sutton just signed a 4-year, $92 million deal with $32 million guaranteed in the first 2 years, and my guy's playing for $10 million. He's paying for a third of that. So I understand where Jakobi Meyers is coming from, but it's already been a long negotiation. We know that they've been talking for quite some time, and it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to have a quick resolution. The only thing I could think of, I think the best case scenario is, they do something like they did recently with Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati today. He was contracted for $16 million for this year, and to get him to play, they just gave him a $14 million raise, and he's playing on a $30 million deal this year. I can see them doing the same thing with Jakobi, maybe giving him a $5, $6, $7 million bump this year and letting him play it out. But there's obviously a reservation on them trying to get him to get to that $20 million number like Courtland Sutton got to.
Yeah, something like that could happen. Or, in my opinion, best case scenario is they do work out a long-term deal. I mean, this is, Terry McLaurin just asked for a trade, whatever that was, 2-3 weeks ago. He signed an extension today. Okay, yes. It ended up just being a part of the negotiations. A week, 2 weeks from now, this could be a similar thing where, this ended up just being part of negotiations. Maybe, the Raiders had to give in a little more than they were willing to, and they do work out a long-term deal. That's the true best case scenario. Whether that'll happen, to be determined. We'll all find out.
Do you think that would you anticipate that if something doesn't get done, Jakobi Meyers at this stage late in the offseason would decide to sit out?
No, I don't think that does anything for his situation. He doesn't really have leverage in that regard. And I'd like to think, and I'm pretty confident Jakobi Meyers isn't that type of guy anyways.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, in this, when you're down to your last year of your deal, what's sitting out going to do? He's not going to get a bigger salary next year by having less production from sitting out. I think we saw what happened when the Le'Veon Bell and those kind of guys have tried to make similar moves, and it never really works out for the player. The other interesting thing in this is how much of a role do you think the drafting of a guy like Jack Bech in the second round? We've talked about this before. Between him and Jakobi, they both have similar play sets stylistically, and I wonder if the reservation in re-signing Jakobi to a long-term deal has anything to do with the perceived growth and potential that they feel out of Jack Bech playing a similar position.
It's a good question. I would say not much, personally. First of all, they could have similar skill sets and also both still contribute at the same time. There's no rule against that. And the other reason I say that is because they have been negotiating for a long time. We've heard they've been negotiating. I believe, Ian Rappaport reported that a few weeks ago. The fact that Myers is asking for this trade now, a couple weeks for the season, as opposed to beginning of training camp, leads me to believe that they have been talking this whole time, and frankly, probably were pretty close. And maybe now Myers is disappointed. I don't know. All speculation. Maybe they were close. The Raiders said, okay, we can't quite get to the agreement. 2 weeks to the season. Let's just focus on the season, and we'll touch base again and see how the season goes, and we'll renegotiate after the season. Maybe Jakobi Meyers didn't like that. I think they like Myers. I think they wanted to keep Myers. I think they had every intention of signing to an extension. But as you said, it's a business, and they couldn't, come to that agreement. I don't think Bech, waiting in the wings played much to it. But I understand the question. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, I think I don't think that he was the end all be all of why they don't sign him. But I definitely think that, they have to think years in advance when they're making these decisions, obviously. And, they have to look at an offense where they say, hey, what kind of role do we see Jack Bech playing in the future? And if Jakobi Meyers is, impeding that, then it might be something that they're more hesitant to do to give him a big time, or at least a long-term deal. So it's just something to wrap your heads around, because, as Raider Nation, I think all of us really respect and love Jakobi Meyers. And I don't think there's a person in Raider Nation that doesn't want him re-signed, probably including the coaching staff. So hopefully they get something done. Like you said, best case scenario, or at least best case scenario, get something done for this year to just do right by a player who's done so much for the organization. And that leads us to another breaking news. And on the opposite end, while the Raiders may be losing a player in Jakobi Meyers, possibly, that they also have now reunited with Amari Cooper on a 1-year deal. Thoughts on that, Rocco? I know you have some conflicted feelings on it.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one that told me. I was kind of busy, throughout the day. I didn't even see this until not too long ago. I'm not sure what I think yet. I don't know how much of this has to do with Jakobi Meyers asking for a trade, and maybe there being a possibility of a trade actually happening. I can't help but think that might have something to do with it. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with it. I just don't know where he fits in on the depth chart. And when I say I don't know, I really don't know. I could see him being a starter and maybe, being maybe the number 3 guy in catches and yards this year and having a really nice year for us. Or I could see him being, a backup and rotating in and only getting a handful of snaps each game. I could see either end of the spectrum. I'm not quite sure what to expect.
Well, it's interesting. Well, let's talk about what this signing is. We have the guy, he had a rough year last year. We all know that. And it's kind of one of those deals where you ask yourself, has he fallen off a cliff? Or was it just a bad season where he was traded mid-season? I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if but last year he only had 547 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had a career low with a 13.7% drop percentage, which is the antithesis of Jakobi Meyers, who had a 0% drop rate. So he did not have a great year last year. However, in 2023, the guy did come off a 1,250-yard and 5 touchdown season, and that's not even counting the 90-yard touchdown that got called back in Las Vegas when he broke loose for 90 yards, but was taken back. So the guy was very productive in 2023 for the Browns, had a really rough last year. So I still think the guy's talented. I think the guy's still going to play a huge role for the Raiders. I think he could play the huge role for the Raiders, rather. But, he's very polarizing in Raider Nation. Why do you think that is, Rocco?
Because I think we drafted him high. He came on strong immediately as a rookie. You saw maybe superstar potential. I don't know that he ever quite reached that potential. Maybe was a little inconsistent. Maybe a little bit of an aloof type of personality. Maybe that's the reason, some view him as being polarizing. I just don't know as far as, the second time around here. I just don't know. I don't know how much he has left. I mean, maybe, he puts the silver black back on and he turns the clock back and he's a really good contributor. I certainly could see that. I certainly could see maybe, he doesn't have much left. I do think it's concerning, the Bills traded for him. Great situation. They had a need for a wide receiver. I thought he would do really well there down the stretch last season, and he did not. So we'll see. I'm hoping for the best. I hope he contributes. I hope he contributes a lot. I just don't have a strong read on it.
Yeah, I think I just find it so interesting to me because, the guy, obviously, like you said, a lot of it has to do with personality. But from a production standpoint, the guy was pretty good for the Raiders. Now, he had some drops and things like that, and he wasn't the alpha dog number one wide receiver. That was Michael Crabtree. We can all agree with that. But, the guy was still a 1,000-yard receiver year in and year out for the Raiders. And, it was kind of like when we got rid of him, it was like good riddance. And don't get me wrong, I understand because he's not a rah-rah guy. He never seemed to be really happy about being in Oakland. He made some comments about the Raiders after he left that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But, but he's a talented guy, and we could use the veteran presence. So I think it's interesting how polarizing he is amongst Raider Nation, but we'll see how it turns out. So it leads me to a question. And we kind of talked about it a little bit, Rocco, but I really like your kind of to see what you're thinking at this point right now. Is Amari Cooper here to replace Jakobi Meyers? If you had to say one way or the other, or to be an addition to him?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say Meyers is going to play out the year, but I think maybe we aren't even sure of that yet. And he was at least partly brought in as an insurance policy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think he's brought in to replace Jakobi Meyers. You and I, Rocco, you and I have talked about this many times before. Amari Cooper to the Raiders has been in the works for 2+ months. Now, the urgency of the deal being done, maybe that has something to do with Jakobi Meyers asking for a trade. But the fact that the Raiders were in on Amari Cooper, that's not new news. That's something they've been working on since June, trying to get a deal done with him. And so I think I think the initial thought process was to pair him with Jakobi Meyers. I don't think the thought process was to replace Jakobi Meyers. Now, maybe depending on like you said earlier, how aggressive another team is after Jakobi Meyers, that may change. But I think that the plan is to allow him to play with him. Now, the fact that it happened on the same day as Jakobi Meyers, Sherlock Holmes had a great quote. He would say that that the universe is, with coincidences, the universe is rarely that lazy. And so it may be something to it that he signed today, the same day that the information came out. But I do think the overall plan is to add more weapons to that room, not to replace a weapon that we currently have. And I think it will kind of be foolish to do that. I mean, you haven't seen Amari. It's not like Amari Cooper is out there working out with the Raiders for 2 days and they know exactly what they have in them. To move on from Jakobi Meyers, somebody who's been with you for years and you've seen him within your system for the last few months with sight unseen, doesn't make much sense to me. So unless it's a really ugly situation behind the scenes that we don't know about with Jakobi Meyers, then I don't think he's here to replace him.
I don't think so either, but I think Sherlock Holmes might be onto something. I think there is something to it. I say I don't know, and again, I honestly mean I don't know. I just don't know where he fits in. If Jakobi Meyers is a Raider this season, with Thornton having a strong preseason training camp, Tucker having a strong preseason training camp, another young player, Bech, that you would like to get reps. We think we're probably going to be in a lot of 2 tight end formations. I don't know where Cooper fits in. And I don't mean that like in a skeptical manner. I don't know. Maybe he fits in right at the top of that depth chart. Or maybe, he's at the bottom and he's just getting a handful of reps. I really don't know. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's a little surprising to me. Yeah, we knew it was in the works, but this close to the season, that it didn't happen at this point, I was kind of not expecting it to happen. So that does lead me to believe maybe there is something to him, possibly as a possible replacement to Jakobi Meyers.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think unless it's something that they get a really strong offer from somebody, there's speculation out there that the 49ers may be interested in Jakobi Meyers. If there's, to me, it would have to be like a day 2 pick you're getting for him to even consider it. Anything less than a day 2 pick, then you might as well ride it out and see what those guys can do together. That leads me to the last question I want to ask you, Rock, about this is, what do you think this Cooper signing means for the Raiders as an organization, not directly related to Jakobi Meyers, but for the offense, for the team?
I'm going to say I don't know for the 25th time. I don't know. Quite frankly, if you're putting me on the spot, with the caveat, if Jakobi Meyers stays with the team this season, I don't think it's going to mean a lot. I think Thornton's still going to get a lot of reps. I think Tucker's going to get a lot of reps. I think Bech's going to get some reps. I think we're going to be in 2 tight end at least fairly often, if not quite often. I think he's more of a depth piece. But I don't know. This just happened, and I'm still wrapping my mind around it. I really don't know. What do you think?
Interesting. As we're talking, I just got an interesting text here as we're talking here, and I asked someone who's in the know. Says, do you think that they want to pair Cooper with Meyers, or do you think that means this Meyers is out of there? And he's responded, said that they want to pair them together. So based on this gentleman's analysis, they are not trying to move on for Jakobi Meyers. They just want to add more weaponry for Geno Smith. And that's what I think is going to happen. I know you're a little lukewarm on Amari Cooper, but I think he's still got something left in the tank, and I think he's going to be a day 1 starter. 2 weeks from now, he will be the starting line. Now, because he has to learn the offense, things like that, do I expect him to play 80, 90% of snaps? No. But I think he's going to be in their base sets for more than Dante Thornton. And I think Dante Thornton, they'll be able to take less pressure, put less pressure on these rookies to perform immediately, and allow to use him in areas where he is best suited. I still think he's going to have a good sized role, but I think Amari Cooper is going to take a lot of those initial routes and initial opportunities away. I think you're adding an experienced guy for Geno Smith, another weapon that the defenses have to account for. With the rookies, yes, they're young, they're exciting, they showing some potential, but they're an unknown. Amari Cooper is a proven commodity. We don't know at what level, but I think Amari Cooper on his worst day can roll out of bed in a good situation and get you 700 to 1,000 yards on in a bad day, on a bad season. Still to right now. Now, I don't know if he's 12, 13, 14.
I don't think the Bills agree with you, but
they may not. But being traded mid-season and trying to learn new offense, sometimes that doesn't work out well. Maybe it wasn't a good fit, but I'm chalking that up to a bad season, a bad situation. Who knows what was going on with him? And I'll tell you some thoughts that we've had. I talked to an NFL defense coordinator right before the draft, right after the draft, and I asked him, "What did you think about this team offensively? How would you guard them?" And his response was, "Man, with Brock Bowers, with Ashton Genty, with Geno Smith, that offense is ready to explode. But if they don't get an X wide receiver, then I'm loading the box and I'm telling my cornerbacks to win." And so that's what they're trying to do here. I think you're getting Amari Cooper, who is an X wide receiver. Jakobi Meyers plays more in the slot for them. They're different positions. And you're going to get a wide receiver that the Raiders hope can win against the cornerback. And now all of a sudden you have to worry about, it's hard to bracket coverage Brock Bowers. It's hard to deal with the 12 personnel with Michael Mayer, because now you have a wide receiver out there that can win one-on-one, and another wide receiver that can win one-on-one, and one that can win one-on-one vertically. Whereas Jakobi Meyers may not beat you as vertically, and Amari Cooper may not be as fleet-footed as he once was, but in 2023, he averaged 17.6 yards per catch, which was his highest yards per catch in his career. 17.6 yards. That's a lot of yards per catch. So that guy was getting down the field. So he could still move. He could still run routes. He could still be a threat, especially, like you said, if he's the number 3 option passing wise, then you're going to get the third attention. I think Amari Cooper is going to be able to eat.
Yeah, I think that's a hell of an argument, and I think the argument makes all the sense in the world if you're getting Cooper, obviously not his prime, but maybe close to his prime. To me, it's just simply how much does he have left? The idea of it's great.
Sure.
If we're getting Cooper from, like you said, 2 years, 3 years ago, great. Of course, all it could do is help. No question about it. I just don't know if he still has that in him. I hope he does. When I say I don't know, I don't mean that I don't think he does. I don't know. It just gave me a little pause with what happened in Buffalo last year.
Sure.
In a good situation with a team trying to win a Super Bowl, and he didn't really get on the field much. So we'll see. He's got 2 weeks to get ready, and I'm certainly hoping for the best.
It's going to be interesting to me to see, does he fit from a personality standpoint, the Pete Carroll culture? He's not a very rah-rah guy. No one's really said that he doesn't work hard, but, he's just a different kind of guy, so it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in. So I'm really curious to see how this all gets put together. Raider Nation, unfortunately, there's more questions that are led by this signing than there are answers. Yeah. And I think it's going to be fascinating.
I don't think we solved anything today, but we tried. We tried.
We didn't, but you know what? That's why it's great to be a Raider fan, because there's always something brewing in Las Vegas. We're never boring. And right now the Raiders have added to their wide receiver core. And now that offense is going to be featured with Geno Smith. You have Amari Cooper, Jakobi Meyers, Trey Tucker, Deontay Thornton, Jack Bech, along with Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. And, did I mention Ashton Genty in the background? And, yes, let's not forget that you have Chip Kelly calling plays. That is a recipe for a top 10 offense, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. It's going to be a fun journey. It's going to be fascinating to see how they put all these pieces together, and I'm here for it.
Me too. Yeah, a lot of talent, man. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead, Rocco.
No, I was just gonna say I'm done saying I don't know. I think I said it 52 times. I'm not gonna say it again. You can take us away.
All right, Raider Nation. Well, again, smash that like and subscribe button for us. And remember, the Raider Nation, the win, lose, or tie, Raider Nation till we die. Just win, baby.
Just win, baby.